Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for prize fighters, circus freaks, and gangsters. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Greta.
And we are here, as always, to discuss the 19th century, the swords, science, sorcery, dare I say, scandal, sports, all of it of the 19th century. And today we're talking about Warrior, Season 3, Episode 5. What was the title of it again?
Whiskey and Sticky and All the Rest Can Wait.
Yes. And that line was easy to pick out of this one. It was not a mystery where the title was derived here.
I mean, that's like, gee, did Young June say something? I mean, there's no question at all.
Did you happen to look up the director? I did not, but this was a fantastic episode.
Didn't I?
Okay.
That didn't ring any bells, but yeah, there was a lot of this that I sort of picked out, and I was like, ooh, that was good. Ooh, that was good. So yeah, I agree with you.
So, there was a really great quote that they recounted at the beginning of the episode that I didn't even catch the first time, the first 3 times that we watched episode 4. But it was, sometimes the smartest among us can forget to be wise, which is such a fantastic line because I am definitely that scatterbrained guy who is constantly forgetting to be wise, but I'm happy to be the smartest in the room. I can just fuck up a good thing.
I was going to say, like, that's very timely for right now because people are definitely wandering around with the I know more than you do. And it's like, you might know more information, but is that really what we need right here? And I actually have some thoughts on that I wrote down for the end of this episode. So,
oh, did you really? Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Look at us. Synchronicity. I love it.
But we get to start this episode with all of our favorite hotheads in cages.
Oh, yes. We had an amazing homage to the opening bit of Rambo where he's getting scrubbed down in the shower scene by Brian Dennehy. So Mai Ling is then in this state being, what were they hitting her with, like borax or something, and then scrubbing her with a brush?
Some sort of delousing powder, some sort of sulfur or something. Because I was getting flashbacks to season 1 when Sam was in jail, and also when he was encountering sort of the immigration apparatus, and how much worse things had gotten. Because when Assam was in jail and when Assam was dealing with immigration cops, everybody was sort of like, it was sort of bored contempt. But this time around, when Mai Ling's dealing with being in jail as a Chinese person and when Young Jun is dealing with the immigration apparatus, there is like active hatred that's like on the boil.
Yeah, they treated them like animals that they hated. I mean, I don't know how you could even develop that much hatred for an animal, but it was really like they were like abusive animal owners.
Right. Whereas when Assam was in prison and when he was dealing with the immigration cops, like in the very first episode, they're like, fucking Chinese. But I can't really get up enough energy to actively be an ass about it.
Right.
Whereas this time, it's like, I am actively mad and want to extra hurt you. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess it really goes back to the that 19th century othering where they really did dehumanize people who were not white, and we really saw it. It was very, very clear in this episode.
And also with sort of like ginning up all the hatred for the Chinese Exclusion Act, it's enough to be like, well, yeah, they're annoying, but I don't know. I don't really have a feeling about them personally one way or another. But you have to sort of like gin that up where you actively want to go out and get up out of your chair and go hurt them. And that's sort of what a lot of what had been going on with the Chinese Exclusion Act. Like, oh, if I'm going to run my political campaign on these people being terrible, I need to get you mad enough about it to be actively mad about it.
You know, that is a really timely thing to discuss, given the fact that right across the river from me, and I mean not 20 minutes from my house, a A 22-year-old man decapitated his father for being a federal employee.
Oh my God, that was right.
20 minutes. 20 minutes away. It's just on the other side of the river. Throw a baseball hard enough and you'll hit his house.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the difference between New Jersey and Pennsylvania is quite extreme.
Well, and just sort of like all of the hatred that's going on around people who don't fit into the gender binary, like so strictly right now. For the longest time, people were like, well, yeah, they're kind of weird, but I don't know. They're not really doing anything to me. And so like ginning up all this hate to actually cause harm to them, like for the longest time, I've been saying like people are going to die by getting them so mad about stuff that they don't need to be this mad about. And well, here you are across the river from that.
Yeah. And I also discovered recently that in the 19th century, those masquerade balls that were happening happened not exclusively, but in a great deal, in large part, so that people could switch genders and dress as the opposite gender. And I learned this in learning about Queen Elizabeth of Russia, who used to have parties where they were required to dress as the other gender, but there were no masks allowed. And that was a crazy thing that was going on in St. Petersburg. And it was...
Yeah, talk about people sort of detached from the little people, the common person. I mean, and this is the kind of like super uber rich debauchery everybody's going on and on about. These people are so bored. They have to make up like weirder ways to be deviant like all the time. I mean, that's literally the movie Saltburn right there.
I've heard a great deal about this, and Barry Keoghan, I
haven't seen it.
Oh, okay,
but
yeah. He looks great. Ripped.
But just this whole thing, it's like you could be going out there and doing some hard work, like making people's lives better, or you could be like, I am so bored, I'm going to find that way to be stranger and more deviant. And yeah, that's
all while enforcing progressively more restrictive social mores on the people beneath you.
Right.
Which doesn't make any sense at all, but it was like they just kept turning the screw tighter and tighter and tighter on the lower class. But that's what's happening now. It's just keep twisting the screws and keep winding them up into this weirder, tighter package, I guess, until they explode. That's what happens when you compress matter, oftentimes. Eventually it will explode.
That's true. And again, this show, well, okay, we're in season 3, so it's actually, just pretty much happened. But I think it's a fair reflection of some of like the tensions that are being created now. But anyway, speaking of people who had power and then have lost it all, that would be young June wandering about.
Boy, and, watching the look on his face could only be described as, oh, I should have learned English. Whoopsie poopsies. Because if he was Assam, he could have just walked up and been like, excuse me, sir, you have made a mistake. And it would have worked fine. But in the broken English he had, it would have worked better than what he did.
That's 100% true. But the fact that he looked Chinese, it probably wouldn't have mattered if he could have recited entire Shakespeare plays because these guys were so wound up. The bulls running the immigration thing. You
never know. Somebody could have been like, last week I saw a dog read Shakespeare, so I'm going to take this man to vaudeville with me. And he, they could have skipped off together.
Okay, that's true. But then we get somebody who's a little bit better understanding how power works, and that's Lee Yong. And he finds himself kind of in charge with Mai Ling, and he may have wanted to be in charge, but he didn't want it to happen this way.
Oh, no. This is kind of like when Jimmy Carter was elected president and got handled the oil crisis and was like, oh, I'm not in charge of the oil. This is a problem. And so, Lee Yong finds out that Mai Ling gave, which we didn't know before. I thought this was her personal money that she was investing. But she invested
1/3
of the Tong's entire liquid cash reserves in that failed venture and got herself locked up in the process. So she lost a third of their cash. And now everybody's staring at him going, yeah, so your girlfriend stole all this money, and you, sir, where's our money? And he's like, I didn't know.
Yeah, he does look kind of weak in the moment because he doesn't have an answer. He's like, shit, I wasn't hired to think. I wasn't, and
I am literally here to karate people. I don't even touch money. What are we talking about?
Yeah. He realizes that trying to like argue this out or split hair. Nope. There's nothing good here. And so Kong Pak kind of pulls him aside and is like, look, man, let's get back to what's important. But that was really a lot of money.
Yeah. And then we go to Buckley. He's stumping on deportation. And Catherine Archer's there in the crowd just looking like the most beautiful puppet master who ever lived. Puppet mistress, I suppose.
Puppet mistress, yeah. Well, Kong Pak is able to focus. Buckley decides, he's going to focus too. The deportation center, we're taking out the trash. He's kind of getting into that rhythm of like good old days when Americans in America were just the Americans doing honest American labor. America. Yeah, even in the 19th century, there's already this idea of this better golden past that we need to go back to. Like, I don't think there's ever been a time in American history where there hasn't been that sort of delusion.
There's never been that time in human history, I don't think, because one of the Greek philosophers, Aristotle or Plato or somebody, Plato, I think, he was writing about it. And there's just always been like this distant halcyon past that never existed, but who knows? Everybody wants to think about it, but Catherine Archer. So let's talk about Catherine Archer's outfit, because she is not wearing a bonnet. She is wearing a tiny hat, which I really appreciated. It was like a tiny little kind of a...
It's called a fascinator.
That's what the hat is called?
Yes. These hats that aren't actually hats are called fascinators.
Because it fastens to your head, or because I was fascinated by her tiny hat?
Bingo. The second one. Yeah.
Okay. How would it have been fastened to her head then, while we're talking about her fascinator?
Oh, still the giant hat pins, or maybe like combs, sort of like the thing Yan Mi has, has.
That would have made it so easy. You just like tie up a bun and then jam a hat pin through it. Bang, You got a hat on. Yeah. Oh, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, and that's how they don't fall off either.
Well, she looked very smart with her little fascinator on. I really enjoyed that look. It was fun.
And that's the thing. That counts as a bonnet in its own way.
Okay.
It's just nothing on their head. That's a problem. And
that's when the baby Jesus just hits you with a thunderbolt right from the sky, right in the top of your head.
And it's always sort of this, you can tell kind of somebody's wealth or how much wealth they're trying to show off is how much they're pushing the rules without breaking them. So a really poor woman would have more of a traditional bonnet on. And so as you go up in the wealth scale, the hats are going to get tinier and tinier and tinier.
That's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
That was kind of like how cell phones got for a little while. They kept getting smaller and smaller and smaller the richer you were.
Yeah, and if you look at women's clothing, typically the more wealthy you are, even though you claim to all of these conservative values, there's going to be some aspect of the dress code that rich women are always going to be pushing. And maybe not in their day wear, but 100% in their fancy dress. So getting back to, these balls.
Catherine Archer would have been a very early adopter of bloomers, I would think, wouldn't you? First woman in town to wear a pair of bloomers is Catherine Archer.
I think she would only wear them because she's also politically savvy. She would sort of choose her moments. But yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, all of a sudden she would be riding down the street, no hands, on a penny farthing and a pair of bloomers. Be like, "What's up, guys? Can you do this? I didn't think so." And then just keep it moving. I really enjoy this lady, even though she's evil as shit.
Oh, well, but again, she's another actor who's playing a bad guy who's doing a bang-up job, and it's just so much fun to watch.
Killing it.
And before we get out of this situation, I did have to laugh that Buckley seems to have taken one of the wrong pages from Blake's handbook, because part of the reason Buckley was like so mad at the world is because Blake treated him like shit. He was always like threatening Buckley and like treating his underlings terribly. And so here's Buckley treating his underling terribly and like, fine, if you can't do it, I'll find someone who will. Rah, 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 rah. I'm like, have you ever thought like how that's going to turn out for you, sir?
Boy, he is not self-aware in that regard, because that's the first of two instances where he does this in the episode, because he does it.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, you caught the other one too. So.
In fact, when I saw the second one, I came back up and I went back to this one. I'm like, oh, sir,
So the reason why I was curious about the director was because I really loved the seg from one scene to the next in this, because it was very theatrical. So they have
oh yes,
they have Archer and Buckley, and then down the corner you see Assam and Hong peeking around the corner, kind of talking, and then it shifts the focus to them, and they're scoping the defenses to try to break Young Jun out, and I loved that.
Okay,
I just thought it was so nice.
Yeah, it reminded me of that transition when I forget who was walking along the street. I think it was Leary and Sophie, and then the carriage goes by, and then we go inside the carriage, and it's Buckley.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of wondering if that's the same director, because that had that same feel about it.
I'm looking. It looks like he's done 2 episodes of Warrior. It was this one and the last one.
Okay. So it wasn't him, but still, that was a sweet transition right there. Yeah.
It really was. And he's kind of just like a video producer sort of guy that was part of Disney's like up and coming like director program. But I hope he gets more work, because this guy's great. I really enjoyed the way he shot this episode.
Yeah, there's a couple other ones that he pulled off, and I was like, "Oh, that's good. That was well framed. That was well done." But yeah, so Assam and Hong, they're like, "We're gonna save Young Jun, but how?" And they realize like all of their normal like tunnels into power have all been blocked up.
It is amazing. We recorded the last episode 4 times, and we got the director wrong when we recorded it 4 different times.
Just shoot me. I don't care. Ow.
That's amazing.
Ow.
Oh my God. But we get food. We get stew and bread.
Yes.
And I'm really hoping you want to or it might not have been stew. It might have just been baked beans and bread. What are your thoughts? What do you think they served them?
I'm guessing there might have been some meat in that stew, and I was actually sort of thinking like the Chinese cooks in the camp. Of course, they're going to have Chinese people cooking for the people in the Chinese camp, partly so they don't get killed. But I was thinking about these cooks. Like, things are so bad in Chinatown. Like, I'm sure they were taking this job as thinking, well, I'm working for the authorities, so they can't export me. Like, this is a quote unquote legal job. I don't know. I was definitely having thoughts about that. But yeah, basically, I'm sure that there were no hunks of meat, that it was just like beans and really nasty bread. They weren't going to give them rice because, first of all, rice was weird and it would have been expensive as a supply.
Expensive, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't being grown in the South yet, was it?
Oh, rice had been being grown in the American South since the late 1600s.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize it had been grown that long in the American South.
Oh, yes. Yes, we have been growing rice in America, but that was like one of 3 times that rice has sort of come to the U.S. And so that was African rice over there. And so that's not what would have been being eaten. They were probably importing rice from South America or possibly from China at this point. And there were some people sort of growing rice on the West Coast at this point.
Okay. All right. So this the rice being grown in America wouldn't have given them the sticky rice that they wanted. Not as much gluten in it or something?
Well, Okay, there's no gluten in rice, but
Okay.
it is the type of starch that that's in there. But yeah, the rice that was being grown in the South was a long grain rice, and it was typically not sticky, and it was rinsed and cooked and prepared in ways, and so the grains were very individual. Whereas some of the South American rice, and then because of the building of the railroad, there was Chinese style short grain rice, sort of what we think of as kind of East Asian rice being grown in the US, because they did find that the Chinese workers would work better if they got to eat the food that they wanted to eat.
That makes sense. I vastly prefer sticky rice, so I feel as though we've been shortchanged in the United States. But
well, American rice, sort of the American rice that we grew up eating for the most part, was just the easiest rice to grow, the cheapest rice to harvest, and the cheapest rice to package and sell.
okay.
We have not grown great rice in the US. And so if you look at sort of the slow food movement and you look at the Carolina Rice Bowl, and it's sort of like there are finally people kind of figuring out that, whoa, rice is more than just kind of a filler. Rice has its own value. We're starting to finally access like, oh, rice is good as just rice instead of just like bullshit starch on the side.
I can't get enough broken rice. I love it so much. Oh my God. The broken rice that I get from the Bangladeshi guys down the street. Oh my God. It's so savory. There's a different scent to it. It's just, but anyway, we're way off track, but yeah, there are many ways to eat rice, and most of them are, it's kind of like bananas. It's like, the idea that we have of it is very bland compared to all of the opportunities we have to enjoy.
Thousands of bananas that are out there. But anyway, no, the San Francisco immigration officials were not going to spend their time worrying about what Chinese people wanted to eat. They were just going to send them the scraps from the bottom of the barrel to shut up so you just don't die. Because if we can at least get you on the boat before you die, not our problem.
Yeah, exactly. Go die in China.
Right? Or just go die on the boat. We don't care.
Yeah.
Just not on our watch. That's all they care about.
Terrible.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so that camp doesn't look so good. But quite frankly, compared to the photographs I've seen of Civil War camps, that deportation camp looks like it was summer camp.
Well, and that's the other thing, is that people weren't living in that camp for very long.
Gotcha.
Because they'd get them in there. And again, we don't want you to die on our watch. Get the fuck out of here before you die. And so they would keep the conditions just good enough so they wouldn't die while they were under their watch by the immigration officials.
Gotcha. Well, I mean, at least they had immigration officials to keep those people alive by then. Hey, it's progress.
I think that was more of not dead as opposed to alive. But then we have somebody who is experiencing being on the short end of the stick, and he's not very good at it.
Oh, and Young June making a friend. I bought it at first. I thought, wow, this guy's really nice. Maybe you can make friends in a POW camp. But no, he got catfished.
Yeah. And that was the thing. He is so used to having power, and he is so used to people being kind and deferential to him. Like, he has no guard for that. Like, he has no filter for that, because that's how people should act towards him. So he's not thinking about whether or not this makes sense in this context.
Yeah, and then he proceeded to take a very, very realistic beating. And,
whoa, yeah.
It was a really... having been on the wrong end of, a beating once or twice by several people, it's you can get lots of good licks in, but eventually you will go down, and it will be awful. And they really got that bang on the money, because a lot of times in movies you see one guy take on 6 guys and he'll win. I mean, it happens at Warrior all the time.
Yeah.
But in real life, that's pretty rare.
Yeah. The moment where he like reaches behind his back for his knives, and he's like,
yeah, you can't see his face, but you can see his hands say fuck.
yes, exactly. His hands, his shoulders, everything. And I do have to say that the stunt guys that they had working on that, they hit some surfaces at some real awkward angles. Like the guy who like hit the back of that bed frame, I was just like, ow! I don't care. Like,
Yeah.
these are some tough dudes.
Yeah, those guys had some Jackie Chan-esque disregard for their own personal safety in that scene. They really went in. It was a great scene. Such a great fight scene.
Yes. I do have to wonder what young June's head is made of, because, like, when he came in to this camp, he still had blood on the side of his head from, like, where he'd been bleeding out his ears, and he still has his head, like...
Yeah.
Like, why?
Everybody in this show must have so much CTE. I'm really everybody back in the past. They just were like... It was just like lead poisoning, mercury poisoning, CTE. And then they that was the base. That was the cake. And then they frosted it with all this other shit. Cocaine and whatever.
Alcohol, opium. Yeah.
Oh, and child abuse.
Ergot poisoning, yes.
So you had the makings of a serial killer for every person who walked around.
Well, so then I guess the Pinkerton dude makes a lot more sense as the drunk Pinkerton dude. Hanging out, watching people butcher fish is entertainment, I guess.
Boy, he is just the perfect Pinkerton. I mean, in the past, especially if you watch like the American Heroes channel and shit like that, they'll show the Pinkertons as like these nattily dressed, gentlemen who are fighting crime and whatever. And it's like, these people were the worst human beings in America. And this guy really fills the bill. It's amazing because even Lee Young meets with the Pinkerton and who was sent by Buckley to get the photo that they have of him in front of the Confederate flag. Yeah. And when he looks at the photo, you can see him go, oh shit, all right, I'm about to get paid twice on this job.
Though I do have to talk about his clothes for a second, because he's pulling the, like, I am not a total degenerate. Because you'll notice he had a tie, like a kerchief tied around his collar, so his collar wasn't just hanging open. Like, that was sort of the, like, I am not a total degenerate. I will not walk around with my collar just kind of like flapping open. That would be embarrassing. And so even though he has kind of basically like this like rag of cloth tied around it, that was his like, but I'm not a complete degenerate. God damn it.
Well, there was that one, the one British guy who he was real big on
Brummel.
like,
yeah.
Yes, yeah, he was real big on his cravat.
Yes.
So I thought he looked that looked kind of flash. What are those collars called that are the up collar, the Victorian collar that just stands tall and doesn't fold?
It's just, instead of being a collar that's like sewed to your shirt like modern collars are, you would have that round collar, that sort of quote unquote Mandarin collar, and this thing clips in. So it's a celluloid collar, yeah.
Is that possible to get now? Because that looked pretty pimp.
I'm sure some version of it. There was a thing going on in the late 80s where people would have like a blue shirt and then they'd have a white cloth collar attached to it. And that was kind of a nod to that. But if you wanted to actually do like the Mandarin collar with a celluloid type or a stiff collar that you had to like clip in with studs, that's like some custom costume thing that you would have to go find. I mean, it's out there.
It's all bespoke suits for me. It's all bespoke suits for me from here on in. Living that life.
Yeah. So even though that looks kind of flash now, that was just sort of like, well, yeah, I have my shirt and I have my jacket and I don't have a tie anymore, but I'm not going to walk around like some total goddamn degenerate. I will put something around my neck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a complete drunken mess.
Right.
I have a tie.
Yeah, right.
That is total drunk logic too. I can speak to that.
Yeah. And so yeah, it's the like, is Buckley gonna come through or is he gone all in with Archer? But it's really like, suck it, My Ling. Who are you gonna go tell on? Like she's kind of in trouble now too.
Yeah, I'm sure this is the first time where people were like, fuck, we need a Kinko's. Get somebody get on this.
Well, speaking of Kinko's, we go to the printer shop and we get just like a little light rifling and spoilage.
Yes, and she is an amazing actress. She's out there she's having her own Titanic moment, just parading around in front of the cops, pretending like she knows nothing about this counterfeiting thing. And they buy it.
Oh, I thought it was pretty fun that she's wandering around in a money green outfit too.
Oh, well, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah. I was just like, that's fun. I was wondering for a second if Lee recognized her. I thought there was a little flash where he was like, wait, don't I know you from somewhere?
Does he know her?
Because I thought maybe he saw her when she and Assam were like running away with, they had the press in the back of the wagon in the
He was in
episode.
he was in the basement with O'Hara. He didn't see them outside.
See, I'm not sure whether or not he did, but I just thought there was a moment where like he was like, wait, haven't I seen you somewhere? And he couldn't quite place it. I was curious.
It was fun watching Mosley just be a casual dickhead through that whole thing, just casually not like smelling things and pouring stuff into bowls and just dropping it on the floor. It was interesting.
And I was wondering just if he thought that was going to be effective. Does he not know that these guys have just recently been harassed by gangsters? So like they are already flattened. Like I think Lee was picking up on this. It's like, you're not going to get anything this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we get to see Buckley, and Catherine Archer is calling him Walter.
I didn't even pick up on that.
Oh, I mean, I'm kind of amazed I did because I was losing it at that shiny ass clearance rack TJ Maxx blouse that she was wearing.
Wow. She's got hot takes. Let's hear it.
I was like, there's no darts, there's no seams. Like, what in the actual dressmaking hell is going on here with Catherine Archer? She had short sleeves out in public one time, and now, like, this blouse makes no sense. Like, who was fighting with whom when this costuming decision was made? I don't know.
Let's remember, they have 74 people working in the costume department for this show. So it could have been up to 74 people fighting over her blouse.
Well, but the thing is, like, the extras in the background are dressed correctly. Like, they have little shirt waists on and little jackets and hats and long sleeves. And then, anyway.
To see, you were trying, we were trying to go mainstream and get on in season 4, have them give us a nod. But no, I think your strongly worded emails in the middle of the night last night might have blown our chance. Damn you with this blouse! Where are the darts? What is a dart? It's a little triangular piece of fabric, correct?
Right. It's like you'll see it, especially in women's clothing, where you need to make, because fabric is flat. And so if you need to make the fabric make sharp turns or curves, you will like pinch the fabric in to make it sort of like bend correctly around a curve in a person's body.
Okay. I understand.
And the fact that there are zero, I don't know what's going on with rich white lady clothing in this show. Like, everybody in the background looks great. All the Chinese people look great. The dudes look great. Like, the whole thing about the Pinkerton having the neckerchief on. The jackets these guys are, like, it all works. And then for some reason, they're dressing Catherine Archer off the rack. I don't get it.
She looks hot in this episode, so I understand you're very bitter about it, but I thought she looked very pretty, so there is that.
Sure, yeah, but it's like you could also dress her in the period clothing and she would look great too. But anyway, yes, we do find out that Catherine Archer
I liked her fascination, thank you very much, and
yes.
I insist that outfit was fantastic.
Well, the hat's fine, but no, we do discover that
I liked that entire outfit, although it would have been better if it was like a skirt rather than, a full dress. That would have been much more fun if it was kind of a bloomers type situation.
Bloomers situation.
But then she would have been like running a brothel, I think, if she had that type of a situation going on for her clothing.
No, because a brothel owner, they want the skirts because you put bloomers in there and everything gets more complicated.
Oh, I guess that's true.
Because at this point, women were wearing something that kind of looked like underwear, but it was crotchless.
But then, goddamn, men are so fucking dumb. So they're running around yelling about how only whores would wear pants, except that it's harder to have sex in pants than it is to have sex in a bunch of skirts that you can just throw up over your head. Boy, they are really, it's funny how
men always got to be mad at women about something.
Yep. It's just ridiculous. That's so dumb. I never even considered that fact before, but I was just... it's so dumb.
I mean, it's really interesting when women were starting to put on pants to go to work in the factories, especially in World War II. Women would actually move the fly to the side or the back of the pants. They would remake the pants. They would take it out, move the zipper to a different part of the pants because it was too salacious to have a fly in the front of their pants.
Okay, well, well, that was right around the time that the first two women to cross the United States on a motorcycle were arrested 2 or 3 times on their trip, not for being women riding a motorcycle, but for wearing pants.
Wearing pants. There you go. Well, there were no laws against women riding motorcycles because they hadn't decided to be mad about that yet. But they did have that other law in the books.
Arrest her for something, damn it!
Catherine Archer has figured out her get-out-of-jail-free card.
Well, so here's where Buckley says that he says this is where I was really like, oh, Buckley is a moron, because he says, well, I always thought the man in power was a fool, and I think he says a puppet too, and then he just doesn't really like Archer at this point. Everything she does is she's leading him in a dance, and she's just like staring in my eyes. Don't pay attention to where we're going. Just watch it. Yeah. Just do what I do. Just when I move my foot backwards, you move yours forwards, and we're just gonna keep going that way. And yeah.
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Uh-huh.
I always thought the man in power was a fool, and now I'm the man in power. But he doesn't finish that sentence.
No, he doesn't. And Catherine Archer makes sure that he doesn't think any more deep thoughts for a good long
She's like
time.
a cartoon snake from an old Disney movie who's just like whispering in his ear and whispering.
Well, and, and Buckley's personality is so brittle, he is really the perfect target for it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the man is all liabilities. He basically he's basically got no upside at all.
So we have one guy who's not good at being in charge. He thinks he is, but he ain't. To another guy who is in charge and doesn't. Oh God.
Wait.
What?
Wait. Little Miss Romance Novels is not going to talk about the fact that this show became a literal and figurative bodice ripper.
Okay.
Because Buckley tore her bodice. How did you skip that?
Because I was so mad at the shirt, and then all I could think of is she's seriously missing like 2 more layers of underwear here.
Why do you... Now you know why they didn't have any darts in her shirt, because he tore it. They're not going to tear $1,000 piece of hand-sewn dress.
All right.
Come on. Well, what are you going to...
Really, it's more that just the women's clothing in the first couple of seasons were, especially in the first season, were so on point. And we've discussed that, the head of costume has entirely changed. But to go from like, holy shit, these women's costumes are incredible. I mean, how much time did we spend talking about Penny's dresses? And now I'm like, I could go buy that shirt right now somewhere. But I wouldn't.
Yes, and you wouldn't care if it got torn either. So there you go.
Because it would come off the clearance rack.
Mystery solved. Because I got it off the clearance rack. Oh my God, la-dee-da.
Nobody else wants that shiny ass polyester shirt either. Jesus.
Oh, God, I hate polyester so much.
Okay, and she's missing a couple of layers of underwear. Anyway, nobody wears a corset right next to their skin in real life. Damn it. Okay. Anyway, Awesome also doesn't want to be in charge, but he knows he doesn't want to be in charge. He is less deluded than Buckley. I'm not saying he's not deluded, just less deluded.
Well, if you say so.
You're saying he is as deluded as Buckley?
I feel like there's a lot of delusion going on. Like, throughout this episode, everybody is laboring. They're not operating in reality. I mean, there are a couple of women, like Yanmi, who is operating in reality. She's like, this is reality. We live here. You're going to have to, get your shit out of my place so we don't all die. And everybody else is living in this fantasy land where he's like, oh, I'll protect you. And she's like, no, you fucking won't. Like, your boss is in prison right now, about to be deported to China, but you're going to protect me. Sure you fucking are. Like, yeah, tell me another one.
Yeah. Like, you've protected me all these other times. Yeah, you're so good at it. And yeah, awesome. Like, this is another migraine episode for him.
This is again, he is a man who makes his own problems.
It's true. That is, yes.
Because you know what problem could have been solved real easily? He could have just said, well, young June and Father June said to leave me in prison and make the Tong first priority, and so I'm the new boss of the Tong, and that's that. And everything would have been much easier if he had just done that. But now he's in this quandary because he's trying to do the wrong thing for the right reasons again.
Well, I mean, the guy has a savior complex. I mean, that's how he showed up in San Francisco in the first place.
But again, we go back to delusion.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. He's
all right.
He's just not evilly deluded. But he's still deluded. He's
still deluded.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But we haven't seen the last of Buckley because he has to have some gloats, some big fat gloats right in Myling's face.
Yep, but he teams back up pretty quick. It's like he came in and he was like, ha ha ha, I bested you this time, my evil friend. Let us go forth and commit more crime. Ha ha.
That's true.
And then just throws his cape over his face and skitters off into the night like Dracula.
The Phantom of the Opera, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and Myling, you know, she this has not been a fun episode for her so far. She's had to, like, suffer and beg, and there's going to be more. She's not going to come out of this in a good state of mind. She's going to have some mads. However this happens.
But, you know, the more I look back on my life, the more I think your 20s are just kind of, that's the decade where you make your own fucking problems. Just every day you wake up and you're like, how could I ruin my life today? And then you set forth on those goals.
Well, Awesome and Hong are going to remind us that they, as much as they can be enjoyable, they're gangsters. Like, they might be fun guys sometimes, but at the bottom of it, they're gangsters. And they're not even, like, fun gangsters. They will do some real dirty work.
Yeah, this kind of turned into it like went from Rambo at the beginning to Reservoir Dogs here. Where tuning up this cop, all they needed was like some 70s music playing in the background. Super 70s hour or whatever that was. And, you know, that one guy could dance and cut off his ear with a straight razor.
Ooh, yeah, this is not the fair fight episode at all. This is all like lopsided fights in this one.
I hadn't even noticed that, but you're right. It really was just kind of the beatdown episode. It was weird that he was like, yeah, just let him go. And it's like, how will this not come back on you? You just tortured a cop. They know who you are.
They saw your face. I mean,
yeah.
That was a little odd, but okay. And yeah, speaking of not fair fights again, Atwood has his boyos going in and rousting Chinatown because the boat's not full, I guess.
Yeah, and O'Hara is finally realizing that what happened to the Irish is now happening to the Chinese. And he's like, I can't do this anymore. This is insane. These people are just trying to live.
And he's like, look, I hated this job, but at least I could hate it on my own terms. You're adding like extra things for me to hate about it. And he misses his babies. And yeah, he's definitely got some misty eyes. Like, wait a second. Like, I'm thinking a lot more about my kids since they're not underfoot all the time.
Well, that and like, he later explains it in the episode, but I think it really felt like, because he argued that, like, the laws that you're trying to enforce were here to protect the people that you're currently separating from their children,
right?
And like breaking their houses down. Like, these laws were created here to help these people, and you're destroying them. And and he just snaps and quits Quits being a cop, finally.
And that line Atwood has in there about, kidnapping the Chinese babies and turning them into good Christian children, that was a really good callback to a lot of the rhetoric that was going on at this part, that it's sort of like, well, it's not these people's fault that they're Chinese or Native American or whatever. We can get rid of the evil that's in them by converting them to Christianity. There was a phrase, kill the Indian to save the man.
Mm-hmm. That's why they had all these Indian schools where they would basically what they're doing in Xinjiang to the people of Xinjiang, which used to be called Uyghurs, Eastern Turkestan. Yeah, and so that used to be its own empire, and now the Chinese are forcibly converting them to Chineseness.
Yes, and so it's it's this thing that like keeps repeating itself, and sure, you kind of like squash one culture, but to what end? And and there's a long period of time of trying to forget that happened, and a lot of needless suffering for what? I don't know. I guess I don't understand realpolitik well enough to think that this is any sort of good idea.
It'll never make sense to me either, so unfortunately I can't shed any light on why anybody would do any of this stupid shit.
Okay. So,
but we go from that to the great reuniting of Father June and Young June.
When he was waking up, I'm like, is Young June hallucinating? Am I hallucinating?
That's what I thought too. I thought it was a dream sequence where Father June was just coming to, karate kid him back to health.
Right. And then it was like, oh no, holy crap, that's actually Father June. And so, of course, we're all like, what happened?
Yeah, and he was basically like a retired judge in Judge Dredd who like has to go out and enter the cursed earth and like bring law to the lawless. He like joined a Chinese ranch that then got raided by crazy racist white people, and he's getting deported now.
Yeah, it was interesting. It was sort of like he couldn't resist taking up this cause. Like he could have walked away, but he's like, no, I'm going to stand here and fight with him. Like there's a whole movie in that somewhere. But that
that would be amazing.
But that
Father June's a great character.
Yes. But that kind of bullshit is like very like that was another sort of like peek into shit that was actually going on. Like people would sort of escape one bad situation, but if they weren't white dudes, then white dudes would come along and say, hey, we want your thing that you've built. And what are they going to do? Go complain to the white dude sheriff? I mean, it happened to black folks who sort of during the Great Migration were leaving the Southeast and coming and sort of like starting farming out in the Midwest. And people would come, kick them off their land so they could then sell it to the railroads.
Yeah, and then you had the Tulsa race riots in 1910, and where they destroyed like the only really affluent black neighborhood or black city in the entire United States and stole all their shit. So it just happened over and over. I mean, they had roving gangs of white men in the South just asking any black person they saw where the hell they came from, and then taking them to a plantation or deeper in the swamps or whatever, so they couldn't escape the South. And then they'd be enslaved.
Or they'd put them in prison, and then, like, even after the Civil War, and then they would be rented out as slave labor that way. And sort of the Tulsa...
which is still going on today.
Yeah. So the Tulsa massacres, you were saying, was the only affluent black... There were actually lots of pockets like that. It's just the Tulsa one is the most famous.
I know there was one in Indianapolis as well. I misspoke there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was Black Wall Street, basically.
Right. But there were plenty of other like little pockets in towns, or there would even be like places where black folks had sort of gotten together, kind of basically a commune, and there would be like 6 or 8 houses, and they'd have kind of a communal farm. And yeah, people would just come in, break it up, and burn it because, they could either sell it to the railroad, or this was improved land that they could take over, or they were just pissed.
Yeah. The communes always seemed like a great idea, but only the Oneida one ever seemed to not get either destroyed from the inside or the outside.
Well, I'm not saying like a religious commune or anything, but it'd be sort of like a cooperative farming endeavor. And who knows it? Like, they never even had the chance to get messed up because you had people coming in and raiding them. But there were versions of that did okay and survived. And then 2 or 3 generations later, they would sort of break up as the kids were able to actually go to real school, go to college, whatever. And so there are these vestiges that are around. There's an interesting history there. And again, way off track. Anyway, probably they were stealing this land from the Chinese ranchers so they could sell it to the railroad. But also, this goes back to the whole Bass Reeves story. Like, it makes sense why he would have become a lawman, because even though, there's a lot of bullshit that he would put up with sort of like dealing with arresting white criminals and whatnot, at least he's on the side of power. There might be a lot of shit he hates, but he's not powerless anymore. And so you can kind of see why black folks joining the white establishment to become police or different sort of members of law enforcement would make sense. At least
it's the exact same reason why the Irish became the police on the East Coast of the United States. They immediately were like, yeah, sign me up for the side that gets fed.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah.
I want to get fed, and I want to have clothes, and I want to have a roof on my house,
yeah.
please. I don't want the British to come and steal all those things.
And so, again, we get to these people who've been in desperate situations. They are making these hard choices that people who have never faced that, don't understand. How could you do that? I'm like, starvation. Starvation is a good motivator.
Also, I think the prospect of get back, for Bass Reeves especially, the prospect of get back for all of the bullshit that's ever happened to him, every time he can put hands on a white criminal, it's a little bit of get back. I would think that, like, it would just be a little bit of a salve to, like, obviously you can't go and change the past, but it feels like it would,
right.
There would be some kind of compensation for the pain you suffered.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot going on there that people who haven't suffered just can't see into. And that's definitely going to come up again later in this episode. But in the meantime, we get that part of the heist movie with Assam and Hong where they start talking about all of the ways you can't pull off the heist when they're trying to get young June out of the camp.
Yeah, well, it's basically just like, let's go kill everybody. And Hassam's like, okay, so you started out talking about a scrap, but now you're talking about a blood jam, and then we'd be fighting the U.S. government. This is stupid. And it was kind of cool to see that there is a distinction between a scrap and a blood jam. Like, a scrap is like, we're not trying to kill everybody. It's just, we're just trying to go prove who's the toughest. And then the blood jam is like, all right, we're going to go kill everybody.
Yeah. And yeah, it's like, can't do this, can't do that. That's not going to work. This is terrible. And so at this point, they're kind of at a low point. Like, what are we going to do? And then we find out, and Mai Ling is out of prison. Like, it just keeps getting worse.
Oh, I do want to add that distinction is actually kind of important because it used to be that, it might still be, but the street gangs used to determine the rules to fight before they would actually fight. These things wouldn't happen spontaneously.
Okay.
So they would determine the rules, the weapons, and the location, and then they would go adhere to that. So, and it was usually just like, no lethal weapons. We're just trying to hang a beating on the next guy and then, go grab a beer kind of thing. More like a soccer hooligan type of thing than it was trying to kill everybody.
See, everybody carrying guns has ruined all of these things.
Yeah. Well, also in the United States, you get 5 years for beating somebody up and you get 5 years for shooting somebody. So, like, people just, I guess, figure, why not just shoot them?
Everything escalates immediately to guns now, and it's like... okay.
Or decapitations. If you live 20 minutes from me.
I'm still going to hope that is a different level. Here's hope. I don't know. Because that takes a different kind of intentionality. Okay, so happily we get kind of the voice of reason. I don't know. But Wong Chow, like me, is always here to tell us it might be worse.
Yeah.
And Assam is salty about that.
But this is also the part of the heist movie where somebody goes, but I have a plan. And that is Chow. Chow has a plan.
And it looks like he's ready to sort of Fong
you
Hai
think?
them. Yeah. Like the Happy Jack crew. Like he's setting up like this complicated plan that involves law enforcement because, like if we're just dealing kind of on the down low with everybody, there's still all of this opportunity for things to go wrong. But if I bring in law enforcement to kind of do something, you can see Wong Chow is like, he has a plan. And then he has plan B, and he's doing things with one hand over here, but he's like working on the backup over here.
But luckily the A-team has Murdoch in jail, so they don't have to deal with their wild card just setting fire to everything all in the middle of it.
Right. Yeah, Wong Chow is just like, all right, I got a lot of irons in the fire. But we get back to Li Yong, and he's just like, damn it, Myling, I want this to work. Why are you always making my job harder? Can you just stop it? And this woman cannot ever say the straight truth, can she?
Oh no, she's an evil piece of shit. I love this this part of the episode because he was basically it was basically like she comes home and he hugs her and he was like, "You're up for review, so you might want to get your files in order. You're going to have to go see the boss." Like, it was immediate. Like, yeah, you're up for review right now. You might as well pack your shit. Start tidying up your office if you would.
And immediately she just starts wrapping her fingers around things. I'm like, I promise it won't happen again. I'm like, that is a lie.
In the 90s, the camera would have panned down to her hand behind her back with her fingers crossed.
Right, exactly. I mean, she might as well have said, I could never forgive myself if blah, 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 blah. It's like, people who say, I could never forgive myself, they always do.
Yeah. She is the older brother holding his sister's hands and smacking her in the face with them and going, "Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself? Why are you hitting yourself?"
And you can just see Leon going, he just can't. And then when she first is like, I'll never do anything without telling you again. Oh, but I will fix the money thing. Don't worry about it. I can do it myself. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. Like, in the same conversation, she goes from, I promise I'll always be open with you. Except for this one thing, I'm going to just don't worry about it.
I feel like this is probably what most, like, housewives have to deal with on a daily basis. Given the number of gambling commercials I see on TV, I feel like every husband is doing this every night to every wife in America because it is nonstop with MGM Grand and all that shit. I'm just like, holy shit.
And DraftKings and whatever. Yeah. All I can say is keep your, like, it sucks, but with gambling the way it is and how much that they're pushing people on it, like, everybody keep your marital accounts separate. Like, holy motherfucker.
Yeah, but I really feel like this is how every conversation every night goes. Oh, no, honey. No, we had to buy a new transmission for the boat thing. And also, I didn't mean it, and I will never do it again until tomorrow when I will spend tomorrow's paycheck.
At least when women go out and buy too many shoes, you can return the shoes.
Oh, although there is that celebrity couple where the woman went to the cops last night or yesterday or the day before because she keeps gambling away all. They're a celebrity. It was on TMZ. There's a celebrity couple, and he took all of her jewelry as collateral basically because she's gambled away all of their money, and then he's trying to get divorced, and he still wants some money, so he's got like several $100,000 worth of jewelry that he's sitting on until they can get divorced, so he can have something.
So what you're saying, it's not just housewives who are getting lied to by their husbands. Sometimes
it's women too. Because those commercials are normalizing sports gambling for women too. And they're very clever commercials. Like, oh, we can beat these guys at sports betting. Ha ha ha. And it's like, Jesus.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it's bad.
Oh, you know what? Like I said, when I make a bad decision and buy some really ugly boots, I can still return them. Like you try them on, you're like, you know what? Shit, these don't fit. Okay. I will return them.
These hurt my feet even worse than I thought they were going to.
Right. But I make a bad bet and they're like, well, we can offer you a lower rate. We'll take less of your money should you win in the future.
Yeah. And they use like an old school crack dealer's method of getting you in there. It's like, no, your first like 10 crack rocks are free. And like, so they're, go ahead and come and gamble. We'll give you $200 right out of the gate. You can just gamble. No harm, no foul.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
It'd be great. Except it's not $200. It's like $5 over the next 30 bets you make or whatever. Anyway, we
are way off track. Way off track again, but we love being off track. So Chow is now trying to get Happy Jack to agree to take out Lee, who and Happy Jack already knows that there's a reward on Lee. So like he's been waiting for this opportunity. He's like, this goddamn white guy has been banging my sister or whatever this is, and it's going to stop. So I will. You know what? You don't have to pay me to take out this guy because I wanted to take out this guy. Well, I'm gonna keep your money anyway because.
But since you put it on the table, you took your finger off that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, okay, so Wong Chow has like layers and layers going here, but he's dealing with another schemer. So we'll see how that goes.
These Rube Goldberg schemes are preposterous. Speaking from personal experience, that whole adage about no plan like ever survives contact with the enemy, that's true if you're trying to go get fucking gas. It doesn't matter what your plan is. If you have 2 steps in it, that's 1 step too many.
Yeah, just realize you might need to have plan B.
Yeah.
I mean, and Wong Chow always has plan B, but
And plan B actually needs to be simple, not this extravagant nonsense of a plan that he has concocted in his first...
Yeah, and that is Wong Chow's problem, is that, like, plan B is not a drop dead. It is just as precarious as the other one, and so he's just as much on a knife edge with, with everybody as when he started. Like, he thought he was going to put all these wheels in motion, and it's like, okay, now you're on a moving vehicle doing this plan. That's not better.
Because even the smartest person can sometimes forget to be wise.
There you go.
Yep.
There you go.
Full circle.
So Lee,
Oh, it's the bromance is rekindled between Lee and O'Hara.
And he is trying to play it off as like, I'm just looking out for you, man. I'm worried about you. It's like, no. He worries like his whole connection with Abby is fraying and he needs a handhold when that falls out from under him. He makes it out like, I'm just here to look after you, man. But he's like, I may need a little help here in the future. I don't know.
I didn't even notice that.
You did.
I was just, because the bromance was so ridiculous. Like, even down to the, like, punch on the shoulder. I'm not the only cunt on this porch. Right. You old so-and-so. Like, it was so just ridiculous. The more I watch these old 80s movies, I realize that the quote-unquote no homo man love was very much 100% homo. Like 100%. We're talking about people who are homo-flexible and just violently opposed to that label for themselves.
Right, because it was sort of the end of their careers. But, I mean, because, well, you just think about it. Like, he had just gotten into this fight kind of with Abby where she's telling him, like, dude, you don't get it. And he's like, wow, this could unravel under me. I've got Happy Jack who's, like, kind of breathing over her shoulder. Like, a lot of, like, I thought I had a good thing here, but it's looking a little unstable. And so I was reading that he also went back to O'Hara as, like, okay, maybe I can't cut off all these ties.
See, I was seeing more of a, well, you don't have a woman anymore. I don't have a woman anymore. Let's get oiled up and wrestle.
I mean, there was partly that, but he really sort of like laid it on thick. It was like, I'm just worried about you, man. Whereas he's like, I'm kind of worried about me. So I need to like re-up the like ties that bind here a little bit. So I'm not left swinging.
Well, no person can be an island unto themselves.
That it's very, very true. So, but yeah, they have a lot of suckage to bond over for sure.
As do young June and Father June,
Oh, yes.
who are contemplating their future, and it involves dying of starvation in China or dying violently on the docks before they get put on that boat.
Well, we know which one young June will choose 100% of the time.
And we also know Father June is just as itchy as young June, so he's ready to scrap.
Exactly.
And he's got weapons.
So,
he's ready to go. They decide they're going to go down fighting.
And that's the funny thing. Like, young June's ready to go at it with bare hands, and Father June's like, slow down, son. I've got a little prepared here. If we're going to go, let's go.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay.
And then we go to Myling and Assam having their little
sibling business.
tete-a-tete.
Yeah. Like,
yes.
they just, they got to go. But in this case, like, I always feel like Assam in the past has sort of felt like he's either had one up on Myling or at least they were even. But I feel like in this one, he basically goes like, all right, kick me in the nuts.
She was playing up the annoying ass little sister to the T. Because he was like, oh, how was jail? And she was like, I didn't care for it, so I left. Like, just so clipped, and I can't even do her clipped speech, but just that's where you look at your mom and you're like, why did you fucking have another kid? Couldn't you just have thrown this one in the dumpster or done something else with it?
Little sisters are always good, a little sister. It hurts all the more because Assam has to ask a really big favor, and he knows how much she's going to just enjoy this. She's going to draw it out.
But I was shocked. I mean, this was like Shark Tank, except he actually got something out of it, because in Shark Tank, they don't really get shit. But because he was like, yeah, so you think you can get young June out of jail? And she was like, sure, I'll take half.
Yep.
Half of all your shit.
Well, and it's because she's kind of in a bind too, right?
Yeah, because she's got to pay she needs to get all the money back, because he tries to pay her in funny money and she just burns it. And she's like, you're an asshole. Like, don't come here with this counterfeit bullshit.
Like,
but yeah, then she's like, yeah, so you're going to give me half. And that's my final offer. So we'll let you think it over. And he's like, well, shit, I guess I'm going to have to go ahead and take it then.
Yep.
So,
yeah, all right. Okay, well, at least, okay, I can still walk out of here. He's literally like, all he's got is it could have gone worse. That's all he's got.
Yeah, at least she didn't ask for all of it.
Yep. Okay, and so here we see Lucy in an outfit that totally makes sense.
Oh, thank God, because I was concerned for your heart health.
Like, this is the kind of clothing that was happening in season 1, and Lucy's got the really fancy like pin tucked blouse with all the embroidery on it and the complicated jacket, also wearing a fascinator, so she's playing it being a rich lady, but the flowers are all kind of like wilty and flat. But
and for anybody who lives on the coast, you've been in a restaurant like this. Mm-hmm. If you've been to any of those old restaurants on the coast that serve nothing but fucking fish, like it was that setting where you could see the ocean in the background and everything. It was really pretty. You could tell that the floors were like squeaking when they walked and bouncing up and down. Like they felt like one of those old sea shanty restaurants, but like the nice kind.
Well, and also like the thing that's turned into the sea shanty restaurant used to be like the fancy like lunchtime restaurant, and the fact that they had all those like quasi tropical plants in there, like that was spot on. The whole like winter garden, like tropical greenery in a place that doesn't actually belong, like that was classy. That's how you knew you were in an expensive joint. Like that restaurant was so perfect.
It was great. It was fun. And it was such a cute scene because he said all the right things. I mean, it was like his counselor was whispering and his therapist was whispering in his ear, like, Yes,
Oh,
yes.
that was class A groveling.
Oh, it was perfect. It was perfect what he said.
In fact, it was so perfect that Lucy was like mad at how perfect it was because she.
Yeah.
she.
Did you actually quit or did you get fired? And he's like, a little bit of both.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, I love you.
Yeah.
I love you, Seamus.
I mean, she had approximately 100 emotions at exactly the same time, and just like, so that was a great scene. The setting, the costuming, and then the acting, like just yes.
And he's going to work for the brother-in-law. He's like, fuck it, I just want my wife. I don't give a shit what job I do.
Right. Yeah, that was gold-plated, absolutely diamond-encrusted groveling, and he landed it.
And he became the first man in this episode who wasn't completely deluded. He actually saw that, like, yes, I was using the police thing to say that I was good, even though I wasn't doing any good, and I was acting like shithead besides, but I figured because I was a cop, I could get away with it. And he's like, but I was being bad. Now I want to be a good person, and I don't care what job I do. It was a really good scene.
And so his time spent moaning and groaning with Leary was productive. He actually got something out of that. I mean, might be the only one, but like he actually grew from that.
Yeah, yeah.
Going back into delusion.
This was a tragically Leary-free episode.
Don't worry, he'll be back. But going back into Delusion Land, we get Nellie trying to make everything okay again for these poor women that she had kind of rescued and had out on her farm, but now they were back in the attic at Odd Toys, I guess.
This is that everybody has that time where you've already agreed to break up, sort of, but there was no, like, formal agreement, and so you have that one last meeting where you're like, how could we still? No, we can't. Shit. All right. Well, hey, it was nice seeing you.
And there was definitely the one person who's like, come on, we could make it work out. And the other person's like, no, I already threw your key into the ocean. So.
Yeah. You're living in a fucking fantasy land. Just shut up.
And Atoy really does, the rose-colored glasses are off. She's like, hope is the cruelest thing you can do to us. Depending on justice is a sucker's game. So that's it. It's back to my way that I understand. And look what you did to lie.
And she was also like, oh, and how did your fucking court case go? Yeah, I fucking thought so. She didn't even let her get the answer out. She was like, yeah, I fucking thought so. The law can't protect you either, you dumbass. Like, why don't you come and live with us? That would have actually been the move. But she doesn't want to do that because then
because Nellie's going to like split hairs and equivocate and we could appeal. And Atoy's like, don't fucking waste my time.
Yeah. Good luck fighting the railroad, lady. Why don't you go stand on the tracks?
Yeah. Just that. Yeah. Atoy, very good at throwing off her delusions. Nellie, terrible at it.
Yes.
Because again, she's, she hasn't suffered the way Atoy has. Atoy is like, no. You either get over your delusions and survive or live in your delusions and you're toast.
Yep.
Okay, I've already seen this.
And then Lai has a point to make, although she's not going to make it speaking because she still only just screamed while jumping through fire. She wants to make that point with her blade. And so she's practicing her swords, and we find Atoy is not letting this shit go. She is going to get this man, and it's going to be nasty. And I am looking forward to it.
But she's like, Lai, you can't rush into this. You can't. You are just ready to go in there like guns ablazing, frontal assault. That's not. Slow down.
It's literally every action movie. There's always the hothead kid who wants to go right back into battle after the team gets their asses kicked, and they're all nursing their wounds, and he's like, oh, we gotta go get them right now while they're sleeping, and everybody's like, kid, chill the fuck out. We need a training montage or 6 before we're gonna go take these people out. So wait for the music. We're gonna have the training montage, then we'll go get them.
Right.
Yeah, and that's the speech that Atoy gives.
Opposed to that is this is the shot that I was like, this was great, because young June and Father June are walking out to the drum beats as like they're heading to the boat, and the way they frame the shot, it makes them look taller than everyone and standing up straight, and everybody else is like hunched down and like has their eyes down. Like the way that this shot was framed, I was like, this is so good.
Well, so they aren't standing up straight initially, though. Initially they have little like things over their shawls over their shoulders. And
Right,
they're kind of in disguise, and they got their knives tucked.
Yep.
And then you see this transformation happen, like, well, this is fucking it. Here we go. We're about to go down.
Yes.
And then you see both of them start to smile as their knives come out. And it's like, oh, it's about to go down. But then the Pinkerton shows up to save the day.
Yes, stop. Yeah. And you could, oh my God, Young June has the biggest, like, violence blue balls ever. He was just like, I still want to kill but okay, I will just intimidate the fuck out of this Pinkerton and get my dad out as well. So
I don't think he intimidated the Pinkerton. I think the Pinkerton just was like, this guy won't shut up and let me get back to drinking until I get his dad out too. So fuck it, I'll just get his goddamn dad out. Whatever.
I just want to be out of this. Yeah,
there's a bottle of whiskey with my name on it. Let's get the hell out of it.
And, you know, and they come back to Hopway territory and jubilation.
Yeah, and this is where we get the title of the episode, because Assam is like, I got some things to tell you. We well, you can't walk over there anymore because, you know, that's not our territory anymore. But
well, and he's about to, like, spill the bad news, and first of all, Father June interrupts him, and Assam's like, okay, phew, I don't have to do. I didn't want to go there quite yet. And then, Young June's waited long enough. He's like, I need all of my comforts.
Yeah. I need to get laid. I need to get drunk. Let's do this right now. And I think Father June knew that he had to do some crazy shit to get him out of there. So he was probably putting it off too. Like, I don't need to hear this yet. Or he predicted it anyway. It was like, I already knew they gave me the farm.
But he also, like, he just wanted to have Young June go, like, burn off all of his things before they had to face it. Like, we got to let this guy let off his steam before we make things, we reveal the bad news.
And Assam did finally get Father June's respect. Father June bowed to him, and it was a very deep bow for, like, an old Chinese man to give a young man.
Yes, especially one that, you know, he had been suspicious of so many times, for sure. But yeah, that was a tense scene, and I think you're right. I think Father June and Assam kind of conspired to, like, get through it, and he's like, save the bad news, man. That comes later.
Yeah. Let's let this spaz go take a nap real quick, because he still wants to kill everybody. Let's.
But yeah, we get to Li Yong, and he is just like, seriously, Mylene? Seriously, you already broke your promise. I'll never do anything without telling you ever again, I promise. Yeah. And he's like, what? It's been like, 12 minutes?
Yeah. This would be like if he was on Cheaters, he caught the girl with another guy, and she promised she was never going to do it. And then the Cheaters people hadn't even gotten out of the parking lot again, and she's already trying to fuck another guy in the back of a truck. Like,
so what you need to understand, Li Yong, okay, listen, like, okay, like, she is.
And then she's like, but we should get, and then pulls the dude move of, all right, so I got to pull out the big guns. I got to pull the nuclear option. Let's get married. Why don't we get married?
Yeah, and Li Yong has his mouth open. He's like,
I really want to get married. I know you're lying to me, but I really want to get married. Fuck. Damn it.
But there's also sort of an element, I thought, in his face of, like, how can I say no? Because part of him is like, I don't think I can say no.
Yeah, like, like my organs on the inside of my body. So, yes, I will be your wife, I guess. Whatever you want me to be, I'll be that. Yeah. I like being alive.
Yeah. I mean, woo. I mean, and my Ling is so deluded. Like, she thinks she's got everything on lockdown now. Now she's got everything on lockdown.
Meanwhile, he's slowly backing out of the room, with his back to the door. Like, yeah, my Ling, everything's cool. I'm not going to go talk to the council about anything at all, and you sleep really well, and I am going to sleep in my own room with a locked door between us, at least.
And the chair in front of the door,
exactly.
Under the doorknob. Yeah.
It's gonna be like Home Alone in his room. He's got broken glass and jacks all scattered all over the ground.
So yeah, Li Yong is trying to learn stuff. Young June, possibly incapable of ever learning a damn thing.
This was like verbal judo, because he came in all hard and he was like, you gave away half of our shit. And Assam just uses his momentum against him, slams him, and it was like, you fucking did this, dumbass. It was all your fucking fault. Shut your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't have to act in a way that got you thrown in there all by yourself. That was, yeah. And then Young June's like, well, yeah, I would have done it differently. I would have, and Assam's like, no, just don't even.
I would have killed everybody. I would have beaten up the whole. I would have beaten up everyone. I wish I had been there. I would have. A real American. He was doing all of that.
Yeah. Like, just, yeah, exactly. And so then we've got Young June and Assam causing all their own problems, and we have Lee and Wong Chao baiting their own traps for themselves.
Yeah, and Mosley. And so I did not expect anybody to get the drop on Mosley at all. Like, that man's quick. And I hope he didn't get killed, because I really like Mosley a lot. But it looks like Happy Jack's guys might have shot him, might not have. We heard a gun go off.
Yeah, I don't know. But the thing is, like, as much as Mosley is sort of this emotionless, clear-eyed killer, he is still a man of his times and probably doesn't have the proper respect for Black and Chinese gangsters that he should if he wants to continue to survive for a nice long time.
That could be. He strikes me as an eminently practical man.
True. But if you spent your entire life looking down upon these people as idiot thugs who can't tie their own shoes, like, it's going to be a blind spot possibly for him.
We need a Mosley Secret Service, Mosley: Secret Service spinoff series where he's just a grinning psychopath the entire episode in a derby hat. I love that guy. He's amazing.
But yeah, so he and Lee sort of set each other up, but Chow had a couple of great lines when Lee walks into his warehouse. He just strolls on in. He's like, hey, you should be more careful. Maybe lock up your doors. And Chow is like, Chow is friend to everyone. Why would I lock my door? I just love that.
Yeah, he was really a spider, just letting the insect get further into the web. Like,
absolutely. And then he's just trying to be
I'm
friendly.
a vegetarian spider. Don't you worry, sir.
Yeah, and just like chill things out. And Lee's like, none of your fooling around. Straight to business. And he's like, all right, all business. Chow is businessman. Okay. Yeah. Like, he just had a couple of zingers right there that I thought, like, definitely drew Lee in even further.
Yeah. And then they got ambushed.
Mm-hmm. Because you know what? Happy Jack holds a grudge. Holds a grudge tight to his chest, lovingly.
I am personally, I struggle with letting go of things. And if I had been enslaved and then my sister started dating one of the people who I associated with slavery, I would probably do all that I could to undo whatever was going on there. So, and he even says, like, anybody, if my sister asks, everybody tell him we don't know what the fuck happened to Lee. Some people got him. We don't know. There was a reward for him. The end. Like, he tells them straight up, like, do not tell my sister this was us.
Yeah. Like, he and his sister already have a beef for sure. But Wong Chao is so mad. He's like, God damn it. Like, can't people just respect the terms of a deal? Like, you make a deal, you stick to the deal. I hate these people who will not respect the deal. Yeah. Like, he's almost madder.
So Chow is now ambushed as well.
He's almost madder about, like, the fact that you, like, messed with the deal than anything else in the moment.
Yeah, because he really has that whole turnabout's fair play thing. I paid you off for the bullshit money, the Fugazi money we gave you, and then you took extra as a service fee. We're even. And he's like, but now Happy Jack's like, nope, we're not even. Yeah, it's not over.
And in like a lot of fiction, you have these characters who like are all about the deal. Like, the deal is sacred, and they're always, I feel like they're usually written as kind of villains or anti-heroes. But the older I get, I guess, I don't know, I sort of see them as having a certain type of nobility, and they can be really important realists in the stories. Like they have an ability to sort of like see further because they are thinking in terms of the deal and then the next deal. Like I have to build my reputation. I have to form these connections, and you can't mess them up. And if you do, like the whole structure crumbles. They really see it as about the deal, but it is an interesting commentary on how society either functions or doesn't function. If you keep violating the rules, whatever they are, everything falls in on itself.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you have that guy in every... there's always a bad guy in every shitty movie who's always yelling about the rules.
I guess I'm not talking about that so much. It's just like when you make a deal, there's the terms of the deal. And like you start the deal, you do the deal, and then the deal is completed. Like,
oh yes, I just mean that guy always delivers a speech about how without order there is chaos, without rules there is no order, and so you always get that stupid ass speech.
Well, but the deal, like each deal has its own rules, and so there's this sort of acknowledgement of change as well, versus the people who are like, without order there is chaos, and they're dealing just with principles that are like really super rigid, and like that that's a problem in its own way because...
So like Atwood versus Chow.
Right.
Okay.
Whereas like Atwood is like, these are the rules and you must do it this way, but you can kind of like lose sight of the big picture when you're just so stuck to just the rules. Whereas the people...
Because the rules are a weapon. They're not a tool. They're a weapon.
Right. Whereas, people who are more about the deal, it's like you are forming these bonds of trust. Whereas people who are so tied up in principles, like there is no trust anymore. It's just the principle, and it doesn't take into account changing circumstances or humanity or anything like that. I don't know. It's complicated and interesting, but people who are sort of like thinking about the deal, they are thinking about trust and connections and sort of like how this all works, and that it does depend on humans. Whereas if you're so tied up in principles, you can lose sight of humanity.
So I guess going back to our original thesis, then it goes back to the people who are seeing the world as it is, as opposed to the people who are deluding themselves about the world.
Right. And do you choose to be smart, or do you choose to be wise? Do you see the bigger picture, or do you just see all these little discrete pieces of information?
That is an excellent ending point, I think. Don't you? You dropped a bit of wisdom on us. That was a nice line.
I'll take it. Well, we came to the end of that one in one piece, I think.
We sure did, and we only had to record it once.
Hey, don't get cocky on me.
Well, I'm going to just repeat again. Everybody, you must listen to Greta's podcast. The most recent, what was the title of that one?
Oh, the pemmican one, the end of one era.
The pemmican one. I literally, this morning I did a podcast, and somebody said, well, they added dried meats to stew. It wasn't vegetarian. And I was like, oh, that's an excellent point. Yes, they did. They used things like pemmican, but they used it more as bouillon. You can learn so much from Greta's podcast. I love your podcast so much. It's amazing.
Thank you. So
we really, really, really need to do a couple episodes just talking about the way that old-timey bodybuilders would have been eating. Just people would love it.
We definitely have to get that together. We gotta get our Patreon going, Jamie. I realize it's a lot of clicking around, but we gotta do it.
All right. Damn, clicking around. All right, so follow me on Instagram, Plague of Strength, and where should they follow you?
You can find me in my podcast, The History of American Food, and after pemmican, I'm going to be starting really on the pre-Civil War 19th century and the rise of the railroad and how that is going to change how America eats.
Yay! At one point I wrote about John Henry, because when I was writing about the way people ate back in the 19th century, I wrote about John Henry and the diets of the railroaders. They ate surprisingly well. I really was shocked. Them and lumberjacks ate really, really quite well.
Well, it came down to, like, is this going how are we going to get this done? Like, even though people didn't like have an idea of calories at the time, if you wanted people to do that heavy labor, you had to feed them food that would support that heavy labor.
Yeah. And they ate some good stuff. So that if you guys want to read any about that, it is in my Empire Builder Diet series. So just Google that on my site, plagueofstrength.com. And follow Greta at Thoa Food on Instagram.
THOA Food.
There you go.
The history of American food. Okay, so it's been a great episode. We'll be back for a soft heart. Won't do you no favors.
Whee! All right, see you next week.
All right, bye-bye. We're on Instagram at PCG Podcast, and you can always reach out to us by email at pcgpodcasters@gmail.com. And you can find more dope beats like this one from royalraven.com.